What was your rank when you got out?
Corporal.
Corporal. And where did you serve?
I served in Southeast Asia and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
So, Joe, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
You enlisted?
Yes.
Where were you living at the time that you enlisted?
Cromwell, Connecticut.
Cromwell. Are there any particular reason why you joined?
I would probably say because I grew up during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and there was a lot of tension between our country and the Soviet Union, and I kind of felt it was my obligation.
Why did you pick the Marine Corps?
I mean, I was always a type of person that hunted and fished and stuff like that, so I guess I figured it would be a good choice for me.
Do you recall your first days in service?
First days in service were in Parris Island, South Carolina.
What did it feel like?
I kind of liked it right off the bat because you were always moving, and it seemed like it was going to be a challenge. So.
Tell me about your boot camp and training experiences.
I went through boot camp for 8 weeks. I believe during the Vietnam War it was shortened from 13 to 8 because they needed people in the field. So, like I said, it was challenging, and I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, it was sometimes when you got yourself into trouble for different things, but it was kind of an enjoyable experience.
Do you remember which battalion you were in?
I was the 3rd Battalion.
3rd Battalion. Do you remember any of your instructors?
I remember my senior drill instructor, which would be Staff Sergeant Suddeth. One of the drill instructors' name was Sergeant Williams. I might have the names over here if you want me to get them, but no. Okay.
What were they like?
They were very professional. At the time, they seemed high-strung, but I guess they had a message to convey, and they were very thorough. And I thought the training was pretty good.
So how did you get through your basic training?
Meaning?
Like, how did you? A lot of people, it was difficult. So what did you?
I really didn't have any problems. It was went quick, and when we were done, we all got our assignments, and most of us were picked to go to. Well, everybody went to Camp Lejeune, but most of us were picked to be all 300s, which means infantry. Then when we got to North Carolina, we were broken down into riflemen, machine gunners, 60 mortars or whatever, rockets.
So you mentioned that you served during Vietnam.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Where exactly did you go?
I went to Quang Nam Province. I got in Camp Pendleton. I got my orders to go to the 1st Marine Division, which was in Vietnam at the time, and the 1st Division was located in Quang Nam Province at that particular time.
Do you remember arriving?
Yes, I landed in the Da Nang Air Base, and there was like a day or two where we just kind of we had to wait for our orders because from the Da Nang Air Base we got assigned to different regiments in the 1st Marine Division.
So what were your first days in country like?
From the Da Nang Air Base, which Da Nang was headquarters, or the 1st Marine Division's headquarters was. I was assigned to the 1st Regiment, and I was in country about 2 days, and I was I boarded a helicopter from the Da Nang Air Base, along with other Marines that were assigned to the 1st Regiment, and we were helicoptered to our regimental rear, which at the time was Hill 55, which was about 10 miles southwest of the Da Nang Air Base.
So what was your job assignment?
Well, from Hill 55, I was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, which was at the time was located on Hill 37. Hill 37 was about another 5 miles to the southwest, and I went from Hill 55 to Hill 37 on a convoy, truck convoy, and I was assigned to an infantry squad because my MOS, military occupation, was rifleman. So I was assigned to a infantry squad as a basic rifleman in the 3rd Battalion, 1st Regiment.
Did you see combat at all?
Yes, I saw combat. You know, it was always something going on. It was the area was noted for its booby traps and Viet Cong, and there was NVA that came down the. It was an area to the north of us that was called Charlie Ridge, and they came down to Charlie Ridge, and it was a pretty active area.
Were there many casualties in your unit, if any?
The particular time that I was in the 3rd Battalion, 1st Regiment, I don't believe there were extensive casualties. There were casualties, but not extensive.
What time was this around?
I was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 1st Regiment in January 1970.
So tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
There was quite a few. I remember when we were on a small hill in basically surrounded by rice paddies, and a battalion commander, a Viet Cong battalion commander, was talking to us with a loudspeaker at night. It was kind of interesting, and because of the fact that he spoke perfect English. And other memorable experience, I would say, would be getting helicoptered into these remote mountainous areas, because we patrolled this floodplain, but we also got helicoptered to these remote mountainous areas that were it was just thick jungle, and it was just cascading streams, and pretty amazing.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
No, I was never a prisoner of war. No.
So were you awarded any medals or citations?
I was awarded medals that, I'm going to say unit. They were everything I was awarded were unit citations. I didn't get any individual medals other than the combat action ribbon. but I wasn't awarded a medal for doing something as an individual. We were awarded. My unit was awarded numerous unit citations.
Do you remember what any of those were off the top of your head, or what they were for?
One was just called the Meritorious Unit Citation. The Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, Vietnamese Civic Action Award. What they were for, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't answer that.
So how did you stay in touch with your family when you were overseas?
I wrote letters home.
Letters?
Yeah.
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 Did you ever get a chance to telephone or?
Oh no! Oh no!
Definitely not.
No, definitely not. No.
What was the food like when you were over there?
Well, if we were on base camp, if we were on Hill 37, we had a mess hall. So if we were on a patrol, we basically ate C rations. If we were on after we left Hill 37, we went northwest of Da Nang, and we were some of the areas were very primitive camps, and basically ate C rations, unless we went back to base camp, and then usually the base camps had mess halls. And the C rations were, you're all right. They, you're in a can, and you had various different types of meals. Some guys liked some kinds, and some we'd swap back and forth, kind of like trade back and forth.
Do you remember what kind of meals they were?
Like hot dogs and beans be one. Let's see, pork slices, beef and potatoes, and generally each packet of C rations came with crackers, packet of cigarettes, which usually you got 4 cigarettes in a pack, matches. Usually you got coffee, maybe hot chocolate. Sometimes you'd have like a can of fruit or a can of cake. Believe it or not, they put cake in a can. So, and like I say, it was in cheese sometimes. It was all right. It kept you going.
Was there any meal that you preferred over another?
Actually, a lot of times we would take a helmet, believe it or not, and just mix a whole bunch of stuff in the helmet, and we would just kind of, share it. We'd heat it over we would take actually C4, which is, we weren't supposed to do that, but we would light a chunk of C4, and we would cook this concoction inside the helmet, and by lighting the C4, and we would just, throw some Tabasco sauce on it and eat it. But,
Did you have plenty of supplies when you were over there?
Seemed like we were always adequately supplied. The only once in a while you would be short on water because of just because there was you were just moving a lot, but usually there were adequate supplies. They would usually drop C rations, on if you were on a camp every few weeks or whatever. And if you were on the move, they would usually helicopter some C rations out to you. But we were always adequately supplied.
Did you feel pressure or stress when you were overseas?
I was a kid, so I don't know if a kid even understands what pressure is. There was always something that could have happened to you. As far as you could get shot or your helicopter could crash or whatever. But I never really, probably because of my age, I never really didn't dwell on it. I mean, again, I was young, 18 years old, so pressure really didn't. I don't think you even understand what pressure is at that age.
Was there something special you did for good luck?
No, I mean, we a lot of the guys would maybe write letters or whatever like that, but if they have time. But no, not specifically. No.
How did people in your unit entertain themselves, or how did you entertain yourself?
Well, when we were out, on patrol or whatever, you really kind of couldn't do much, as far as entertaining. It was it's pretty serious. But back at base camp, usually they would have sometimes they would bring beer to you, or you'd be able to, if it was a big base camp, you'd be able to buy beer at a small club. And once in a while they would have outdoor movies. So they try to keep you, your mind, not completely on business. They would, try to break things up. We also had the First Marine Division had each rifle company in the division got to go to an area on. I guess it would be at China Beach. It was called Stack Arms, and what they did was they took your rifle, all your weapons away, and they issued you a pair of shorts, and you had, like, for 3 days you had USO shows, and you had food, pretty good food cooked on grills and stuff like that, and I believe they started in 1969. The First Marine Division was like an in-country R&R, and it was for 3 days. And like I say, every rifle company in the division got to go at least once during the year tour.
Did you have any entertainers come to where you were at all? USO shows?
I'm going to say probably just at the R&R, the Stack Arms. Now, again, I'm just I'm speaking for myself. Maybe other units did, but I don't recall any other entertainers.
So did you get a lot of leave at all when you were out there?
We didn't actually get a leave. We got, again, that was an in-country R&R. Now. We did have an R&R, kind of like a formal thing where you got to pick. It was a bunch of countries you got to pick to go to for. You went for 1 week. One was Singapore. One was Okinawa. I don't know if I'm going to remember all of them. One was Bangkok. One was Sydney, Australia. And one was Hawaii. And I picked Bangkok, so I went to Bangkok for 1 week. And I didn't have to pay for the flight, or when I got there, we went to a R&R center, and they kind of told us the ropes and stuff like that, and from there we pretty much were on our own. But it was organized in the sense that there was people to meet us that were from Thailand, and they kind of got us motels and drivers, and it was kind of fun. So that lasted 1 week.
What did you do when you were in Bangkok?
Well, we went to boxing matches and plays and all anything that a kid would do. Bars, anything that an 18-year-old kid would want to do. Some of it you probably wouldn't want to tell your mother, but but that's about it.
Other than Vietnam, where else did you travel while you were in the service?
Okay, from Vietnam, I was assigned to the Second Marine Division in North Carolina, and I was I had I got from Vietnam. I got a 20-day leave, and after my 20-day leave, I had to report to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, I was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, which was located in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So I went from Vietnam basically to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and finished out my service in Guantanamo Bay. We call it Gitmo, but Guantanamo Bay.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
Well, a lot of humorous ones. Yeah, one time I drank too much beer and I rolled off the top bunk and I split my head open on the floor. And my buddies were they had consumed too much beer themselves, and they put me on a stretcher and tried to carry me to an aid station. This was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and they probably dropped me 3 or 4 times on the way to the aid station. So I think that was pretty humorous. But
were there some pranks that you or others would pull on each other?
Well, when I was in Vietnam, sometimes when we came back to a base camp, a rear area, sometimes we would take gas grenades and throw them into the rear echelon troops in their area, throw the tear gas grenades in their areas, which is probably not a nice thing to do, but again, we were 18-year-old kids, so they would kind of scurry out of there. Well,
you mentioned you have photographs.
I got photographed, yes.
Okay. So those would be included with your document here. What did you think of your officers and fellow soldiers?
The officers that I came in contact with were mostly second lieutenants. Other than the company commander, who was a captain. So it would be just second lieutenants, which were usually platoon commanders. And of course, the captain, the company commander was a captain. I would say they were very professional. They seemed like they were very respectful of us, enlisted guys, and I said they're good Marines. What was the other question?
And your fellow soldiers.
Fellow soldiers, very very patriotic. And for 18-year-old kids, I thought they did a hell of a job. They they weren't afraid to be they did their duty. The guy had a walk point. They walked point, and we just pretty much did what we had to do. We had a division school that taught basic combat demolitions, and a couple of us went to it, and sometimes we had to use it in the field. And division school was very good, and I would say the guys were. Yeah, I think they did a hell of a job. Yeah.
So you mentioned you went to a demolition school?
I was there in April of 1970. I went to a 3-day school for basic combat demolitions, which was at the first engineers camp, and it was a good school. It was they taught us whatever they could in 3 days, and went back to our units, a little bit more knowledgeable of how to handle things in the field.
And what exactly did you do with that demolitions? What was your responsibility with that?
Well, it wasn't like I it was like my number one responsibility. Like I say, I was a basic rifleman. So, basic rifleman, what you do is you handle whatever rifle you're assigned, you have. Like at that time, we had M16s, but you could also take over on an M79 grenade launcher. Usually you did a few different things. I carried an M79 grenade launcher for 4 months, but there was like one time I had to blow up a 500-pound bomb in the field. The VC basically, they use our ordnance against us by making booby traps. So one of our patrols found the 500-pound bomb, and since I had gone to the school, I was asked to go dispose of it in the field, and the training was very good. I had I made a couple of charges. One I hid in case if there was VC in the area, they found it. They found the one that I left. I left one so they could see it, and one I left so they couldn't see it, and I made couple of charges, and basically set 2 charges and hightailed it because you had to get away from it, get quite a ways away from it, and blew it up in the field. It wasn't a big deal. It was one of the things that I was taught in the school how to do. So it was relatively standard procedure.
Did you keep a personal diary when you were?
No, I didn't.
No. So do you recall the day that your service ended?
Yes, I was discharged from Guantanamo Bay. I went to North Carolina. Had like a couple of days left, and I was discharged in North Carolina.
So you were in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterward?
Went to work. I had to find a job, so I took probably 2 weeks off, and I went to Florida. Flew to Florida and kind of bummed around Florida for a couple of weeks, and then I went back home, and I think my first job was shoveling tar off the back of a truck, dump truck. So
back in Cromwell, Connecticut?
No, well, it was in Portland, actually.
Portland?
In different towns. I worked for a guy that was based out of Portland. That was my first job when I got up.
Did you go back to school at all?
I tried using the GI Bill for college, but I was not cut out for classrooms. So I went to the state employment office, and I asked them if they had any apprenticeship programs, and they did at the time. They had one for meat cutter. So I took my GI Bill and I switched it over to the apprenticeship program, and I used it in the apprenticeship program.
And you said you became a meat cutter?
Yes, I was a meat cutter, right.
Did you make any close friendships while you were in the service?
Not well. I mean, everybody I consider all the guys at my unit my friend, but not real close because we went over as replacements. So you went over, and when you were going over there, maybe you had a year to go in Vietnam, and somebody that the other guys, some guys would be leaving like a month after you got there, 2 months after you got there, 1 week after you got there. So I went over as a replacement. So we really didn't make a lot of real close, what I would consider close friends. Other than the fact that they're all great guys, But I think if I went over as trained as a unit and went over with a unit, it probably would have been a little bit different. So I really didn't keep contact with anybody when I got out. No.
So you weren't able to continue any of those relationships?
No, not really. Again, because we went over as replacements. I think my unit was. I think they got to Vietnam, the 3rd Battalion, 1st Regiment. I think it was January of 1966, and they left in May of 1971. So you basically, they just kept, feeding new troops in, and people got rotated out, or they got wounded, or whatever. So it's kind of hard to. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of hard to. It's different than having a training with a unit and going and serving with a unit and then coming back as a unit. We didn't do that. So even when I went to Guantanamo Bay, it was the same thing. The 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines was in Guantanamo Bay. I don't know how long they were there, but again, we just went as a replacement. It was a 4-month tour of duty in Guantanamo, and then just went home from there. That was about it.
Would you say that that system of rotation had something to do with why you didn't develop a close relationship with a lot of the guys?
I would say probably. Again, if you're with a unit, and I'm not knocking the system, because that's the way it was then. But I think if you train as a unit and you go into a combat zone as a unit, I think you'd probably have a closer relationship with each other. But and it's not that we didn't. I mean, we were close, but not in the sense that we were. We were trained with each other for like 6 months, and then or a year or whatever, however long they train out together, and then go into a combat zone or wherever you're going to go. It's a totally different type of situation.
Did you join any veterans organizations when you came?
I'm a member of the VFW. Yes.
Do you participate? Active participate?
Not really, no. But I mean, I'm a member. I like the magazine, and I just like the fact that they do have veterans organizations, and I think they're a great thing.
So, what did you go on to do as a career after the war? You mentioned you.
Well, I was a meat cutter for I guess over about 10, 11 years, and then. I got kind of sick of working inside, so I took the test for the Postal Service, and I've been a mail carrier now for 27 years.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I think my military experience gave me a much higher. I don't know how to word this, but much higher appreciation of the military and of all the branches, not just the Marine Corps, but the jobs that they do is very difficult. And most of the guys that do the difficult tasks are very young, and they do a hell of a job, and this country should be very proud of the job that they do. They're the real heroes. They're not the baseball players and the football players that we build up on the news. It's these young kids that serve in the military. Definitely, they are the real heroes.
What about your views about war?
My own personal opinion, I would say. Again, this is just my opinion. I think that it's the last resort. it's a drain on national resources. Not and especially the fact that people get killed and some seriously wounded. I think negotiations would be hardcore negotiations would be the first thing that we should do, and war the last resort.
Have there ever been any reunions for your unit?
Yes, there has. Well, the First Marine Division has a reunion every year. All the whether you served in peacetime or wartime or Korea, Vietnam, World War II, whatever, they have a reunion every year. I've never gone through a reunion, but I know they have them every year.
Is that something you think you might do in the future?
Probably not. I usually spend my vacation, kind of travel around the country, hiking and fishing and stuff like that. So I probably wouldn't be very good at a reunion.
How would you say your service and experiences have affected your life?
I would say that it had a very humbling. It was a very humbling experience, and only because of the fact that so many people did so much more than I did, and they did it with just for love of country or whatever. I can't explain it, but it was a humbling experience for me. I'll never forget my military experience. And again, this goes for all the branches. I mean, guys that were on the ships out in the Gulf of Tonkin, and the guys that were flying up doing the airstrikes, and it was humbling. I was really impressed at the way the American serviceman performs. Definitely, never forget it.
Well, is there anything that you would like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
No, other than the fact that my experience was just a small grain of sand, and I appreciate the fact that people are interested in what the veterans do. I mean, not that I did a lot. There's a lot of people out there that did a hell of a lot more than I did, but I do appreciate that there is an interest in all veterans what they did. It's pretty amazing what you people are doing.
All right, Joe. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.